Isaac believed he had built something unshakable, a marriage fortified by passion, trust, and unrelenting desire. Lydia was intoxicating, a woman who could set his blood on fire with just a glance. Their connection had always been electric, a primal force that pulled them together in the quiet of the night, when their bodies spoke a language deeper than words. He had spent years adoring her, making sure she felt desired, spoiled, and cherished. Every soft moan that escaped her lips was a song he had memorized. Every arch of her back an intimate map he had traced 1,000 times. But lately, something had shifted. The warmth in her gaze had cooled, replaced by a detachment that sent a dull ache through his chest. She still played the role of the loving wife, still murmured sweet nothings against his skin, but her touch lacked the hunger it once held. Isaac sensed the change, but like a man clinging to the edge of a cliff. He convinced himself it was nothing. He chalked it up to stress, routine, the ebb and flow of married life. What he didn't know was that beneath the surface, a storm was already gathering, and it was about to shatter his world. The night Isaac's world cracked open, he had no premonition, no warning beyond the quiet whisper of doubt that had been gnawing at the edges of his mind for weeks. He had been out of town on business, nothing unusual, just another trip that Lydia had kissed him goodbye for with that practiced smile of hers. But when a delayed flight had brought him home hours earlier than expected, he decided to surprise her. Maybe she had been distant lately, but he had never stopped wanting her, never stopped aching for the heat that once burned between them. So he picked up a bottle of her favorite wine, imagining how the night would unfold, the slow burn of anticipation, the way her lips would part as he pulled her against him, the warmth of her breath against his skin. The moment he stepped into their house, however, a different kind of heat filled his veins, one fueled by rage, not desire. Laughter echoed from the upstairs bedroom, a sound he hadn't heard from Lydia in months. It was sultry, unguarded, and it wasn't meant for him. He moved without thought, every footstep on the staircase heavier than the last. His heartbeat a deafening drum in his ears. The door was cracked open just enough for him to see her tangled in the sheets with another man, her body arching, glistening under dim light. And when she moaned a name, Tyler, it wasn't in shame. It was in pleasure. His world didn't just crack. It shattered. Isaac didn't remember leaving the house, only that his legs carried him out before his fury could consume him whole. He found himself in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His breaths came hard and fast. The image of Lydia's bare skin, the way she tangled herself around Tyler, playing on repeat in his mind like some sick, twisted film. The woman he had loved, worshipped, was moaning another man's name in the bed they once shared. And she hadn't looked guilty. She hadn't looked ashamed. She looked satisfied. A bitter laugh escaped him as he sat there, heart hammering. He had spent years thinking Lydia was different, thought she was loyal, that she wanted him. But it had all been a lie, hadn't it? The stolen kisses, the whispered promises, the way she'd clung to him in the dead of night. Nothing more than a well-rehearsed illusion. He exhaled sharply, tilting his head back against the headrest. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. And the worst part? Their so-called friends had known. That thought hit even harder. Who also been laughing at him behind his back. As the rage cooled into something darker, something sharper, Isaac pulled out his phone. His fingers hovered over a familiar number before he pressed dial. The line barely rang before connected. Doug, he said, voice eerily steady. I need your expertise. Lydia wants a divorce, and I want to make damn sure she regrets it. Isaac sat in the dim glow of his study, the soft clink of ice in his whiskey glass, the only sound filling the silence. The rage that had burned so hot in his veins earlier had cooled into something far more dangerous, resolve. He'd spent years giving Lydia everything, his love, his devotion, his loyalty, and now he would give her nothing. He tapped his fingers against the mahogany desk, his mind working through every angle. The house was his, purchased long before she came into the picture. The business? That had never been hers to touch. His father had been a businessman through and through, ensuring that any assets tied to their family name remained untouchable. But the accounts, that was where Lydia thought she had leverage. He smirked, reaching for his laptop. With a few keystrokes, he rerouted funds from their joint accounts, siphoning the money into one she had no access to. Nothing drastic, just enough to ensure she felt the shift without outright panic. Let her wonder. Let her start sweating. As he scrolled through the transaction history, something caught his eye. Small, calculated withdrawals made over the past few months. Not enough to raise immediate suspicion, but enough to suggest something hidden. His jaw tightened. What the hell had she been doing? A slow, cold smile spread across his lips. Whatever game Lydia had been playing, she was about to find out that Isaac was done being the fool. And this time, he was the one in control. Isaac played the long game. Every move was deliberate, every decision calculated. The moment he found those suspicious withdrawals, he knew Lydia had been preparing her exit long before she ever uttered the word divorce. That was fine. Let her believe she was ahead. Let her think she had everything under control. The fun part would be watching it all slip through her fingers. The first step was subtle. He changed passwords, updated security settings, and quietly froze any accounts tied to his name that she had access to. The next time Lydia tried to make one of her under-the-radar withdrawals, she'd be met with a lovely little error message. Would she panic? Would she call the bank in a huff, demanding answers? Oh, he hoped so. Then he made a call to his family lawyer, a man who knew exactly how to handle women like Lydia. Entitled, manipulative, and completely unaware of how badly they'd underestimated their opponent. The lawyer listened to everything, then chuckled. Oh, she's going to hate what's coming. Isaac smirked, leaning back in his chair. He could already picture it. Lydia, pacing their bedroom, frantically refreshing her banking app, unable to comprehend why the money had stopped flowing. Then, just to twist the knife a little deeper, he started dropping hints, offhand comments about work stress, economic downturns, maybe even some family business restructuring. He wanted to see her squirm, because Isaac wasn't just going to win. He was going to make sure Lydia felt every single loss. The unraveling of Lydia's carefully constructed world was a slow, deliberate process, one that Isaac savored with every passing day. He watched the shift in her demeanor, the growing anxiety behind her perfectly curated smiles, the subtle tension in her shoulders when she thought he wasn't looking. She was beginning to realize that something was wrong. It started with the little things. The first time her card got declined at the boutique she loved, she laughed it off, blaming the system. The second time, she hesitated, quickly checking her banking app, only to find that the once flush accounts were suspiciously lighter than she remembered. She didn't say anything to Isaac that night, but he noticed how she lingered by the kitchen island, chewing her lip as she refreshed the screen over and over. Then came the whispers, conversations she thought he didn't hear. Late-night calls in hushed tones, her voice tinged with panic. No, I don't know what's happening. No, I can't ask him yet. He might suspect something. Suspect? Oh, Lydia. He didn't suspect. He knew. The final nail in the coffin came when she attempted to access what she thought was her escape fund. Those little withdrawals she'd been making, siphoning money off the top like he wouldn't notice. But when she went to retrieve it, gone. Every last cent, redirected, frozen, untouchable. Isaac watched her that night, sipping his whiskey while she stared blankly at her phone. She wasn't ready to confront him yet. But soon, very soon, she would have no choice. Lydia's facade was crumbling, and Isaac could see every crack, every fracture spreading like a spiderweb through her once flawless confidence. She had spent years perfecting the art of manipulation, of keeping him enthralled with carefully placed affection and just enough sincerity to keep suspicion at bay. But now, the illusion was slipping through her fingers, and she was grasping desperately at whatever control she still believed she had. It started with a sudden interest in their marriage, a transparent performance he watched with detached amusement. She began leaving handwritten notes on his desk, sweet messages about how much she adored him, how she wanted to reignite the spark. She planned elaborate dinners, dressed in silky lingerie that once would have driven him mad with desire. Her touch, once calculated to inflame him, now felt forced, desperate. One evening, she sauntered into his home office, draped in red lace, her eyes dark with a hunger that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with fear. She straddled his lap, her fingers tracing his jaw, her lips ghosting over his ear. "I miss us, baby," she whispered. Isaac smirked, running his hands up her thighs, gripping just hard enough to make her shiver. "Do you?" he murmured, his voice a smooth drawl. He let his fingers linger at her waist before pulling away completely, leaving her breathless and wanting. He saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. Good. Let her feel what it was like to chase something just out of reach. Lydia's world was caving in, and Isaac was savoring every moment of her slow descent into chaos. The woman who had once strutted through life with effortless confidence was now unraveling, piece by piece, like a poorly stitched seam splitting under pressure. The luxurious life she had schemed and seduced her way into was slipping through her grasp, and for the first time, she realized she was utterly powerless. The moment of reckoning came on a crisp autumn morning when she arrived at what used to be their house, only to find the locks changed. Her belongings boxed up and stacked neatly on the porch like discarded trash. She stood frozen, her pulse hammering as she reread the legal notice taped to the door. Eviction. A final, brutal message from Isaac, making it clear that she no longer belonged in his world. Desperation clawed at her as she fumbled for her phone, dialing Isaac's number with trembling fingers. It rang. Once, twice, then straight to voicemail. A cold rejection that sent ice through her veins. She spun around, only to find him leaning against his car at the edge of the driveway, arms crossed, watching her with an expression of pure, detached amusement. "Forgot something?" he asked coolly. Her throat tightened. "Isaac, please." He pushed off the car, stepping closer until he towered over her, his voice calm but lethal. "You made your choices, Lydia. Now live with them." She opened her mouth to protest, but he was already walking away. The night was thick with silence as Lydia sat alone in the dimly lit motel room, staring at the peeling wallpaper and the half-empty bottle of cheap vodka on the nightstand. The past few weeks had unraveled her life thread by thread, stripping her of every ounce of luxury, security, and control she once wielded so effortlessly. She had gone from sipping champagne at charity galas to rationing cigarettes and counting crumpled bills, barely enough to get through the week. The humiliation was unbearable. Tyler had vanished as quickly as he had reappeared in her life, leaving behind nothing but unanswered texts and the bitter aftertaste of regret. The moment he realized she no longer had a free ride, he was gone, proving once and for all that she had gambled everything for a man who never intended to stay. And Isaac had watched it all unfold with a cold satisfaction, making it clear that she had no place in his world anymore. She reached for her phone, scrolling through old messages, looking for something, anything, that could tether her to the life she once had. A part of her wanted to call him, to beg, to plead. But deep down, she knew it was useless. He had moved on. He had won. Tears blurred her vision as she let the phone slip from her fingers. The last remnants of the life she had so meticulously built had crumbled into dust. And for the first time, Lydia had to face a terrifying truth. She had nothing left. The crisp morning air was filled with a rich scent of freshly brewed coffee as Isaac leaned against the porch railing, watching the sun rise over the hills. A soft breeze rustled through the trees. And beside him, Elena stretched her legs out, sipping from her mug with a contented sigh. Titan and Luna lay at their feet, their tails flicking lazily against the wooden floorboards. It was a simple moment, but it was real, effortless, untainted by deception or ulterior motives. For the first time in years, Isaac felt truly free. No more lies. No more carefully constructed performances. No more questioning if the love he received was genuine or just another well-played act. With Elena, everything was different. There were no manipulations. No whispered plans in the dark. Just laughter, shared meals, and a slow, steady rebuilding of trust. She glanced up at him, a knowing smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "You look at peace," she murmured. Isaac exhaled, the weight of the past finally lifting. "Because I am." As the sun bathed them in golden light, he knew this was just the beginning of something real. Life has a way of revealing people's true intentions, often in the most unexpected ways. Isaac's story serves as a powerful reminder that love should never be transactional. Real relationships are built on trust, respect, and mutual effort. In today's world, where appearances and social validation often take precedence, it's crucial to recognize red flags and never ignore your instincts. Pay attention to actions, not just words. Financial security should never be the glue holding a relationship together. Protect yourself, emotionally and financially. And remember, sometimes walking away isn't a loss. It's the greatest victory. Choose peace over toxicity always.